Come on in. Pull up a chair. Kind of explain to you what I'm doing here. So before I finish up grinding and screening this Bois d'Arc gunpowder, Osage Orange, I just want to have a short conversation. And there again, this is kind of a teaser because I'm not quite ready to test these gunpowders in my guns yet, just simply because I've already done one 30 grain burn on my wooden blocks. And I will tell you right now, it burned exceedingly fast. And as I'm pulling my hand away, which would be a natural human knee-jerk reaction, I did observe that it burnt a whole lot more hotter than anything else that I have made. But because I've done that, it's caused me to think in another direction. So let me get finished up here, and we'll go on over to my anvil and we'll do some test burns, and then we'll come back into the shop here and I'll describe how this or what this has caused me, or why it has caused me to think in a different direction. So I'll get finished up here and I'll meet you right over there. So just so that you'll all see, I start all these tests with a pretty clean block. And ultimately, I'll explain to you what I'm getting at. So just stay tuned as we go through these burn tests. I've got multiple gunpowders I want to check and test right now for a specific reason. 30 grains, Bois d'Arc, Osage Orange, and this is by volume, and I want you to recognize that I have not put this back onto my drying tray and put it on the dashboard of my truck to further dry it out, because I have started doing that now as a matter of fact after one of the last videos I did regarding the drying of your pucks. But 30 grains, let's see what it does. That went up pretty quick, and again I felt a lot more heat on my hand, but let me show you the block. Nothing like the smell of gunpowder in the morning. So there's the block. You decide for yourself if that's clean enough for you. I'm not going to make that judgment for you, but looking at it, I can still see those little pieces of KNO3, and this is after a 36-hour mill time. You decide for yourself if that's clean enough for you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this block as it is so that I can compare to some other gunpowders that I've made that I think burn a little cleaner. Because as I stand right now, my personal opinion is that this burns a little dirty compared to some other gunpowders. This is why I want to retest this, and why I suggest, doing this on a block of wood so you can see what your gunpowder is doing. So you have a visual aid instead of just running a patch down a barrel and say, yep, it's dirty. No, it's pretty clean. Those are just opinions, just like this. It's just an opinion. So let me do some more burns and I'll give you some more opinions. 30 grains, the gunpowder I made with Alder as the charcoal. That went up pretty quick also. But what does the block look like? So there's the block. Judge for yourselves. Same as before, I can see the little tiny pieces of KNO3 milled for 36 hours or so. But side by side comparison, here's the block with the Alder, and this is the block with the Osage Orange. Looking at it right here, I would say the Alder burned a little bit cleaner compared to the Osage Orange. And I'm going to keep this block for the time being also. Okay, 30 grains of maple with a specific gravity of 0.63. And I've done this before, and the maple burns pretty dirty. And it burnt slower. You can see that. But let me show you the block up close once again. Oh, I love the smell of gunpowder, especially when it's burnt. But there's the block with the maple. And I can tell you guys, I can see a lot more of the KNO3 chunks. And it did burn slower. But let's compare that to the Osage. This is the Osage right here. Decide for yourselves. As far as being dirty, dirtier looking, my opinion right now is that the Osage looks dirtier, but I will tell you, there's a lot more of those KNO3 pieces left behind than on the Osage. Okay, I'm going to do another test. I want to retest Barberry and compare that to the Osage because, as I mentioned, I have a thought in mind. 30 grains Barberry. As you can see, that went up pretty quick. From my perspective, a lot quicker than the maple did. And the Barberry and the maple have a similar specific gravity. But let me give you a close-up of the block and we'll compare them once again. So here's that burn test with the Barberry. I would agree it's dirty. I mean, if you're going to compare. Again, I can see little larger chunks of the KNO3, but I cannot guarantee that this was actually burned or milled for 36 hours because my can says it was milled for 30. So is that the difference of having a lesser time milling compared to a longer time? You guys decide for yourself. But let me grab the block with the Osage burn and we'll do a side-by-side comparison. Osage, Barberry. You guys decide, judge for yourselves. But in my opinion, I would say they're just about equal. The last two tests, I had to go make 2 more burn blocks. You know, this one's had multiple tests, so there might be just a color variation due to, you know, the wood. This wood being brand new, never had a test on it before, and this has had multiple tests. So that's why I'm telling you guys to judge for yourselves. But if I were to make a judgment, I would say that they're just about equal. But I will admit the Barberry has a lot bigger chunks of the KNO3, and I don't mean they're obtrusive or anything like that. I can just physically see the chunks of KNO3 a lot better on this than I can on this. That's how much more observable they are. So I've got one more gunpowder that I actually want to test, and I want to test the gunpowder that over time I've been making with a whole bunch of different charcoals. Let me get set up and we'll do that. As I expressed earlier, this gunpowder is made from the jar that I put all of the fines in, collect the fines, puck it up, and make gunpowder. This particular batch right now has a mixture of aspen, juniper, and red cedar. So let's see if it burns clean, burns dirty, burns fast. I don't know what to expect. We'll all see this together. But 30 grains. That went up fast and it burnt hot. Let's take a look at the block. Well, there's the block. Decide for yourself. I would say that would be dirty. Left a lot of residue behind. As far as the KNO3 chunks, they're very minimal. Let's compare that to the Osage Orange. I would say that they're very comparable. But you decide for yourselves. So let me go back into the shop and I'll explain the full context of this video and why I did what I did in this video with these test burns. So some of you guys may have already anticipated or guessed what I'm going to do next. I am anticipating, because of the burn test, even though the Osage did burn fast, burned hot, it still left a residue behind. And I'm anticipating that residue to plug up my flintlock, I don't know, within 4, 5, 6 shots. Now, it may be true that the Osage Orange gunpowder burns very hot, very fast. I've discussed that. But what I want to do now is I want to do a blended charcoal with Osage and my Alder. I'm going to do a 2-to-1 blend, because if truly, and I won't know until I shoot this through my guns, if truly the Osage Orange burns better or produces better velocities, that might be another option for a whole lot of other people. Okay, and the reason why I settled on Alder, and though Alder burnt maybe perhaps a little bit more dirtier, when I ran the Alder gunpowder through my flintlock with a 5-shot spread, 80 grains by weight, not the 87.5, but 80 grains per weight, I get an average speed of 1750. That's that dyslexia kicking in. But that same 80 grains, same gunpowder through my Great Plains only produced an average of 1597 over a 5-shot spread. See? So there has to be a balance in what we're all doing with this. The gun, the amount of powder and everything else. But because I want to primarily test the Osage in my flintlock, I want to see if I can produce, a better average than 1750 and see what that spread is. On the thought process, so regarding the thought process, I want to be able to compare the Osage without a blended charcoal and with a blended charcoal. And as I stated, because the Alder produced more feet per second with a higher velocity, that's what I'm going to cut it with. So let me get my jars set up, and I'm going to give you 15 grams of the Osage gunpowder by itself, and then I'll give you the volume of the 15 grams of the Osage Alder blended. But I'm going to go 10 grams Osage with 5 grams of Alder. So let me get that accomplished, and I'll show you through the clear jars, volume-wise, what we're looking at. So once again, there's your 75 grams potassium nitrate, 15 grams of Osage Orange. And that's what 10 grams of Osage Orange looks like. So the jar in the middle contains 5 grams of the Alder. And obviously the jar on the far left is the 10 grams of Osage. Now I'm going to go blend those two and put that up against that jar of potassium nitrate, and that way we can really look at what the volumes are in this mixture. So there you have it. The charcoal in the middle is the blended Osage Orange and the Aspen. 15 grams. And if you can look real closely, you can see that that is below the level of the potassium nitrate at 75 grams. The jar on the far right is 15 grams of Willow. Now, when I first started learning to make gunpowder, Willow was the charcoal of choice. And way back then, when I started doing some of my experimenting with other woods as a charcoal source, such as cottonwood, the cholla cactus, and you could see physically in the jars way back then that Willow occupied more volume-wise with the 15 grams. But even then, it still burnt really fast. But fast doesn't always mean cleaner, and fast doesn't always mean more powerful. So what I'm going to do is go back out in the shop, because I have plenty of Willow left, and we'll do a burn test and we'll see how fast Willow burns. So before I walk over and light that off, you should know, as it pertains to my Willow, what I have done is I've gone through all my Willow, because all my Willow I know is 75, 15, 10. When I started working with the formula 75, 15, 11, I went through all my Willow, weighed out 100 grams, and then at that point I added an additional 1 gram of sulfur, and then re-blended it, re-milled it for several more hours. I cannot tell you how many hours this particular gunpowder milled, but taking it with a grain of salt, I had the initial milling at maybe 20 hours, and then the secondary milling maybe another 10 hours. I mean, you know, there again, I don't remember specifically, but with that extra gram of sulfur, let's see how it burns. Well, that went up kind of quick, but let's take a look at the block, because I can tell you right here, right now, it's pretty dirty. So just to remain fair and consistent, I cleaned up the block that I used earlier to burn Osage orange. I'm going to burn another 30 grains, and then we're going to compare that to the Willow. Again, went up very fast. But let's compare the block with the Willow. So once again, there's the block with the Osage orange. Went up real fast, burnt again real clean. Here's the block with the Willow. Went up real fast. Didn't burn as clean, but there again, as I explained, I'm not sure about the total mill time. Osage orange, Willow. Judge for yourselves. Looking at it from right here, I'd say they're about equal. Maybe the Osage orange is just a little bit more darker with the charcoal, and that's the reason why I'm blending aspen or alder in it, to see if I can't clean it up without losing any performance, if I can determine that it does have better performance through my chronograph. That is in an upcoming future video. I'm going to take 3 days to blend this up, and I'll tell you right now, I'm down to my last V-belt with my ball mill. I have more coming, so this might take a little longer than I'm expecting. So anyhow, thanks for watching this, and keep in tune for my shooting challenge. I'm going to be shooting, there again, just the Osage orange and the Osage orange alder blended. So once again, thanks for watching, and if you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and I hope you'll share it with your bestest of buds. Bye.